Welcome back to Making a Murder, my journal. And I want to start a new series here that breaks down the timeline because I feel like everything is happening before it should. It's like everybody's psychic. They know what's going to happen in this case on their paperwork before it is even possible that they know. And that leads me to believe that some reports could have possibly been put together. How do I put this? Later and then predated or backdated or something. It just, the reporting in the case is sloppy everywhere. And I get that. And I get that there's going to be typos and there's going to be misprint dates and things. But there are some that there's just no acceptable reason for the paperwork to be reflecting what it's stating. And that's what this is about. This entire breakdown of what do we have in the actual paperwork that's telling us a story. So I'm going to pretend today that I've never heard about the Stephen Avery, Teresa Halbach case. Okay? And we're just going to walk through with the paperwork and see where it just takes me. Like I Googled it, and we're just going to walk through their paperwork that they have already. And let's see where it goes. So this series is going to start off, and it's a timeline series, and it's called Out of Time. So here we go. This is Teresa Halbach. She's a 25-year-old photographer that worked for Auto Trader. And October 31st, 2005, she went to several appointments that day, and that's what the question was, is where she had went last. The prosecution has stated, and their claim is that she was last seen by Steve Avery at his property, which is next door to his sister's property. And the claim is that he and his nephew have murdered Miss Halbach. And so she is, at this point, let's go to this. This tells us that Zellner has a statement, and she says, and this is Zellner is Stephen Avery's lawyer, and she has been on this case for quite a time, a couple of years, and she is trying to get a retrial. That's the goal, because the evidence and the paperwork and the eyewitnesses are telling us a different story than the prosecution gave us. So let's see what we have here. So it says, Teresa, this is a quote. It says, Teresa's mother, Karen Halbach, first reported Teresa missing at 2:52 p.m. on November 3rd, 2005. Now let's go see the report. So it's an incident report. And let's see. It's a little blurry. I apologize on that. But it is 11/3/2005, and it's actually got 2:51 and 54 seconds, or 56 seconds. So it's the same time, and the incident says death. So apparently, let's see if we have the right person here. Okay, so the caller is Karen Halbach, and it's being continued to be followed up. And let's see here. It says 11/3/2005, 2:52 p.m. Stated her daughter, Teresa Marie Halbach, and then it lists her birth date, has not been seen since Monday at home. But they list the incident type on this report as death. Wow. To me, that's... You call up and you're like, yeah, I haven't seen my daughter since Monday. And they listed her as dead. Okay. So 2:52 p.m., Teresa is reported missing by her mother, but reported by MCSO as dead. Let's move on. So we're going to stay on November the 3rd, which is a Thursday. I have a global subject activity report, and you can see here this gentleman's name, Okay, so it's our suspect that they're referring to as Stephen Allen Avery Sr. And it is printed out on the date 2/2/216. That's obviously not the time frame, so we will look at that. But it is his picture. And let's go look at the time frames. Whoops, sorry about that. So I've got it bigger here for you, and we have the date 11/3/2005, military time 1834, which is consistent with 634. And let's see what the description says. So this is, a few hours after she's been reported missing by the mother, dead by the county, and we're going to read what it says. It says subject type, suspect, incident type, homicide, non-negligent, charges. I don't even know where to go with that. They haven't even had a chance to look for her. And everything that I've researched at that point, in those 4 hours, I don't ever recall personally seeing anything that says they had went to her home at that point, and even seeing if she was home. So this is a huge leap. We've gone from the mother reporting her missing to the county reporting her as a death. And then now the county is reporting him to the Global Subject Activity Report. That's crazy to me. So let's rewrap our head around this. We've got 2:52 p.m. Teresa is reported dead, and then by 6:34 p.m. Stephen is subject for homicide. In less than 4 hours, they have begun the paperwork as though they know she is dead. Okay, we have a Manitowoc County Sheriff's report here. It's another incident type. And again, it's printed on 3/17/2016. And it is on the 12930 Avery Road, Two Rivers. And let's go ahead and look over here. It is a homicide, non-negligent, that they are stating occurred from 2 p.m. until I believe that would be 6, 7, 8 p.m. on October 31st, 2005. And so they're listing it as a homicide at this point for the incident. But we're going to get on to that at the bottom of the form, why that's important for that date. But here we have a name. And on this form, it says Barbara Ellen Tadich. Well, it says Tadich Barbara Ellen. So if she was married to Tom Janda in September of 2005, we're looking at a month, and possibly, if you look at the disposition date, we're looking at possibly 45 days. And for the state of Wisconsin, when you file for divorce, I believe you have a 6-month waiting period before it's finalized. And then from my personal experience, I was told by the family commissioner that I had an additional 6 months to wait before I could remarry according to state law. And I do live in Wisconsin. So that kind of makes you wonder, how in the world on 11/15 that they can tell you and foretell the future that this is Barbara Tadich and not Barbara Janda. I don't know. It is out of time. Out of time. So let's go to the bottom of the form here. Same form. You can see it's the 3/17/2006 print date. Same gentleman on the thing here. And it's talking about the arrests, and then it talks about something seized down here. Let's go down to the property line. It does say 11/3/2005, same day. It lists a 6-, so that's a number. It says evidence seized. And then it says property 03 automobiles. And then it says make Toyota. And then the model is RAV4 Sport, Toyota RAV4, and it even states the color is dark green. Out of time. I am just so confused. If this was going forward and they would be doing this on their own paperwork according to when it was occurring, I don't think we would be seeing these kind of clerical errors. If these are clerical errors and we're saying that they are typos, the date's wrong here, the date's wrong there, the name's wrong here, the name's wrong there. The complication is we cannot call that a typo because she was still married to Tom Jend at the time. And she had just started seeing Scott Tadich. And so in this case, they would have to know the future to type that because at the time this was made, there was no one named Barb Tadich. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Let's do a little listening to this. If they've seized that RAV4, you've got to say there's got to be some questions with this. So I hope this turns right for you.
Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department, this is Lynn.
Lynn.
Hi, Andy.
Can you run Sam William Henry 582? See if he comes back for that.
Sam William Henry 582. I need to know that, please. Alrighty. Do you speak any Spanish there, Andy? I'm just going to call him the top of the list. It's fine. On call, didn't call me back. So when I get in trouble, Andy, I get in trouble. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
My favorite one is in the city of Manitowoc. Yes. Okay, it shows that she's a missing person, and it lists to Teresa Halbach.
Okay.
Okay, that's what you're looking for, Andy?
99 Toyota.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye-bye.
So I find that very interesting. Well, first off, I'll tell you that was the words across the screen are where I've let the machine do it, and it did read some words wrong. So she didn't say beer, and I was just trying to be able to give myself something to see with it. I did find it interesting that it said DA in there because it made it sound like she was going to have to make an excuse to the DA. But I think that's just our sound system kind of messing with us. But it does make you think about it. He says, I'm trying something about the family. Like he's verifying something for the family. Is he looking at the car? Because they're reporting it seized on 03. So would there be a reason that he would be looking at the car to be able to call the plates in? Now, him referring to it in 1999 Toyota, it doesn't work for me because they made that body style for I want to say 4 to 6 years. And so looking at it, it would not have told you the year. You would have had to been looking at a VIN number, a registration paper, something that gave you the year. Now you can lift the hood and the VIN number would be underneath there by the window according to the Toyota dealer. And you could read it there. But there's also the VIN number that's by the dash as well. So if he had called the VIN number in to her, it would have made a lot more sense to me that he knew the year and the make and the model. But that didn't get discussed. It was a license plate. So is there any reason that we should question or even consider the fact that he could be the one that found it? Well, that call is him. And that does precede anybody being allowed on that property with permission. So that would be a problem if they're trying to say that Rav was on that property when he made this call or something, because he can't. If he is actually reading that vehicle plates, that would mean that Rav is sitting somewhere else for him to legally be able to read that if he's looking at the vehicle. But let's go ahead and look at this. It says Colburn calls in the license plate in days before the Rav is found by Pam Strum. Yeah, God of Pam, she's holding her head. It's almost more than she can think of all at once. How to find that Rav in 15 minutes out of 3,900 cars on close to 40 acres. But you know what? God guided Pam. Yes. So let's go over here and let's look and see what we have for witnesses that can contribute to this, to kind of build a mental image as to where that Rav was sitting. So it says at this time, and this is all on the 3rd, keep in mind, one day, and we're halfway through it. So from the affidavit of Kevin Ramlow attached as Exhibit D to Zellner's October 23rd, 2017 motion. He goes on to say in his affidavit, on November 3rd and 4th, 2005, I was in Mishicot. I saw Teresa Halbach's vehicle by the East Twin River Dam in Mishicot at the roundabout or turnabout by the bridge as I drove west on Highway 147. Around midday on November 4th, 2005, I stopped at the Cynics gas station at the intersection of Highway 147 and State Street in Mishicot. While there, I saw and read a missing persons poster for Teresa Halbach. I remember the poster had a picture of Teresa Halbach and a written description of Teresa Halbach and the car she was driving. I recognized the poster attached as Exhibit A to this affidavit as a copy of the one I saw at the Cynic station on November 4th, 2005. I recognized that the written description of the vehicle on the poster matched the car I saw at the turnaround by the dam. He continues to say, while I was in the Cynic station, a Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department officer came into the station. I immediately told the officer that I had seen a car that matched the description of the car on Teresa Halbach's missing persons poster at the turnaround by the dam. In December 2016, I watched Making a Murderer. In the series, I recognized the officer who I had talked to at the Cynic station on November 4th, 2005. A photograph of this officer is attached as Exhibit B to this affidavit. Having watched Making a Murderer, I now know that his name is Andy Colburn. So that was on the 3rd that this guy was saying that he has seen a vehicle that matches the description, and he has mentally become aware from that poster what that vehicle looks like. He then has seen Colburn in this gas station. He recognizes him for some reason. Maybe he's in uniform now. It's interesting because we don't hear any police reports about that other than that one that we're talking about where it says seized. So is that where it was found at that point? Well, let's go on to see if there's more eyewitnesses to contribute. Avery's neighbor on Jambo Creek Road, Wilmer Seibert, said he saw a vehicle matching the color, style, and size of Teresa Halbach's Toyota RAV4 driving into the back of Avery's salvage yard via Quarry Roads days before Pam Strum found it abandoned in the salvage yard on November 5th, 2005. Let's stop there. I think it's interesting he says days before, because it takes away the idea that it could be the day before. It's days. So that means the 4th isn't going to happen. So this, according to this eyewitness, this would have occurred no later than the 3rd. So let's continue. Seibert saw an older model white Jeep with paint chipping off the hood closely following the RAV4 down the access roads into the gravel pits. A short time after seeing the two vehicles enter the gravel pits, he saw the white Jeep exit the gravel pits, again using the same access roads just south of his house on Jambo Creek Road. So this gentleman, Mr. Seibert, he is explaining that two vehicles entered this salvage yard, and that it was preceding days before Pam Strum. A white Jeep with paint chips coming off the hood was following very closely, and he saw them enter the gravel pit, but he only saw the white Jeep exit at that time. And that was south of his home. So another witness for the 3rd. Let's go ahead and see what we have here. A Calumet County Sheriff's Department document. We have a telephone contact with Assistant District Attorney, and it is dated that this activity is the 10th of November. But it does apply because of the fact that you're going to hear this witness is actually originally reporting on the TV. So let's jump into the boxed area. It says Irving K. was on one of the television stations indicating he had seen Teresa's unit vehicle in a turnaround on South 147 east of 143 on Thursday morning, 11/3/05. There you go. 3 witnesses, same type of deal. And then we have the seized record. We have Colburn calling in to verify the plate number and the make and the model of the car. Just a lot of questions. So let's just kind of do a real quick recap. We have 8:30 a.m. Carmen was found dead that morning. Now, the reason I bring her up is she did have a homicide on the same day, and I just don't want to ever forget another murdered victim, because I'm all about innocence all the way around, no matter who you are. If you didn't do the time, crime, you shouldn't sit the time. And if you're an innocent victim of murder, you shouldn't be forgotten. So 8:30 a.m. Carmen found dead. 2:52 a.m. Teresa is reported dead. We have an unknown time. The RAV4 is reported seized by MCSO. We also have 3 solid witnesses that have given affidavits saying that they've seen a vehicle matching the description, all in about the same places, or in places where we know that eventually the RAV does go. 6:43 p.m. Stephen is charged with homicide. Wow, what a day. We have 2 girls reported dead. We have a RAV4 seized, and Stephen's charged with homicide. And at this point, I don't even think I've read anything at this point that tells me that they even went to her actual house and checked to see if she, was there. It just mind-boggling. It's out of time. Everything's out of time. It doesn't make sense. It's like they're out of time, like they're jumping the gun constantly to try to push this along. And they've got depositions that are going to be happening with some big people, so this timing is kind of making it clear to me that they're pushing things very hard. Let's go ahead and keep going here. We have an 11-305 contact with Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. It would be John Dietering, and he's talking about on Thursday, 11-305 at approximately 1900 hours, which is 7 p.m. I, Dietering, did arrive at Manitowoc County Sheriff's Department. Then I met Detective Jacobs, Lieutenant Link, Detective Rumaker, and Sergeant Colburn regarding this matter. So in this meeting, he goes on to discuss he learned that Sergeant Colburn had been at the address of Tom Janda, and it lists the Avery Road, and had spoken with an individual known to him as Steve Avery. And it says apparently Colburn learned that Avery's sister, Barb, and here they get it right, is married to Mr. Janda. So let's pause on that moment, and let's look up here. So this report is on the 3rd. The other report, the latest it could have been, was the 15th of November. She and Tom Janda were still together on the 3rd and married. And it's very interesting how in the other form, she's static already. And it's like 12 days she'll be married, according to that form. So how many typos do we got that can foretell the future, right? It goes on to explain about Teresa and how Barb was selling the van, and that Miss Halbach works for Auto Trader. I'm just summarizing here that some pictures had been done. Let's just go down here. The thing I want to catch is this. So we have an underlined area. It's right here. It says at 25 hours. So take the 12 off. We've got 8:25 p.m. approximately. Detective Rumaker did contact a representative of the State of Wisconsin Criminal Investigation, DCI. Now, I am not a private eye, and I'm not a lawyer. But to me, if you haven't, if mom has called this in and we're looking at it like 6 hours later, and there's been no investigation that has produced evidence, I don't know why you would call the DCI right away. Wouldn't you want to see if she's actually missing? Like for 12 hours try to find her? I'm just asking. Don't hate me. I'm just saying that makes no sense to me. And furthermore, I could see it if she actually had been reported dead, that they would do that. So now that kind of backs up the theory that they do believe she was dead. It brings a lot of questions. That's just the way I feel, my humble opinion. Okay, let's go to the box. A call was in place to investigator Wiegert. Wiegert indicated that the Auto Trader magazine received a fax from Teresa Halbach in the early morning hours of 10/31/05. And then it goes on to say the phone number listed on the printed portion of the facsimile showed that the facsimile was sent from 920-435-1367. Wiegert advised me that this is normally done at the end of the day by Teresa. Well, I want you to remember that part because, again, that's an out of time factor. So we're going to go here. This is an actual transcript here, I believe, from the trial, and we've got questioning going on. And so I've highlighted it, the name of who is answering the questions. And it says, the question here says, now, Mrs. Schuster, as manager of Auto Trader office, at least for this region, are you familiar with the records, the business records within that office? And she answers yes. So you know who we're talking to. Now let's back up to the question before that. Now you know this is who we're asking. So it says, you said that Mrs. Halbach had been working for you for about a year. Did she have a particular district that she was responsible for? Answer, and this is how she replies. When she was brought on, she was responsible for Green Bay. In the mid-year 2005, she had taken over the Manitowoc, Sheboygan area 1 day a week on Mondays for us. Now, if the third, I'm trying to think now. Yeah, it would have been a Monday, October 31st on a Monday, because that's what Teresa Halbach reported. Karen Halbach reported was that was the last she had seen her daughter. So that means she works in the Manitowoc and Sheboygan areas on Mondays. All right. Let's keep going. So this is one of the clients that had contact with Teresa on October 31st, 2005. So let's read that. Now the purple makes it hard for me to read it because I'm half blind. So bear with me if I do misprint. And I do, as you can hear, I have a little bit of a cold. So during our conversation on October 31st, 2005, Teresa told me that she was currently in the Sheboygan area handling other appointments in or around Sheboygan. I recall that Teresa, I think it says told me that she either had just finished an appointment in Sheboygan or was heading to her last appointment in Sheboygan. All right, so she's in the Sheboygan area according to this customer because that's what he's hearing from her. And then he goes on to say, I was unable to meet with Teresa within 30 minutes of our conversation, so she could not complete my appointment that day. We ended the conversation by agreeing to reconnect on a later date to schedule a time for her to photograph the vehicles. Now note there's more than one. I was thinking about advertising Auto Trader. So she's going to reschedule this appointment because he can't be there within a half hour. And apparently he's reporting that she's telling him she was either on her way or she was leaving from the area of Sheboygan. So that means she wasn't at her house first. She would not have come from her house and been able to complete all that at the other appointments with Steve Avery first. She would have been in Sheboygan, according to the witness there. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. And this is a conversation with Ms. Halbach. He states at 11:35 a.m. on October 31st, 2005. Okay, and they are reviewing Exhibit A. And it appears to be an affidavit. So it states, at that point, she told me that she was driving, but that she pulled over to check her calendar before scheduling my appointment. So she has this appointment handwritten on her day planner. And she's been in Sheboygan. So her day planner could not have been laying at her house later on because she has it here and she's in the Sheboygan area. Let's continue with what she says. During our conversation on October 31st, 2005, 11:35 a.m., Teresa checked her calendar and we scheduled an appointment for the following day at her studio in Green Bay for me to pick up my pictures. Now, the woman didn't say Palm Pilot, and the thing is she hand wrote it on the calendar anyway. So even if she was checking her Palm Pilot to see if the day was available, it's the fact that that calendar reflects these customer changes, this change of plans, and it's handwritten. So this calendar is with her at the time of this call, and there's no way around that. As well as she hasn't been home to leave it behind after they've called, because we've just heard the other customer that witnessed her stating she was in the Sheboygan area. So here is the actual calendar, and I find it very interesting. Let's go over here. You can see it's send Sarah, thank you, copy, stuff from mom, get Sarah's stuff from mom. It says something about biz paperwork, mom, birthday gift, call someone, I can't read that, call somebody. And they have blocked off the appointment times on this. I don't know why. But if you look here, we have a birthday play, or Courtney's play, over there. Anyway, this is what the big hoopla is because under these things, you've got Trader Sheboygan, you've got handwritten stuff on here, and the point is that on the 3rd, this is what happened. It's in the bottom in blue. After arriving, Hillegas said he had found a schedule of Halbach's for the week of October 31st to November 6th that had a telephone number on it, and Hillegas called the telephone number. Pitson believed the phone number was a stop that Halbach had made in New Holstein. Pitson advised that person Hillegas spoke to was a male subject. Well, the New Holstein area, that's not Stephen. So who's the new subject? And how did Ryan get this? If Teresa Halbach had this, was in Sheboygan as that witness on the stand said, and then were followed up by the fact that she's writing down appointments on her calendar, how did he hand this to anyone? How did he get this on the 3rd? I don't know. Let's review this a little bit. So this is somebody else's thoughts. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I really enjoyed it, and I want to thank them. And I want to share how brilliant they are. It says, it tells us that Teresa had communication with 3 people before 11:30 a.m. and 12:45 p.m. Those 3 people all made plans with Teresa for following days and agreed to communicate again in the future. It tells us that Teresa was in Sheboygan, an hour away from home, at 12:45 p.m., and even said she can extend it for another half hour if Steve could meet. Steve couldn't meet, so Teresa went on to her next Steve Schmitz. It also tells us that Teresa had her day planner as she made notions for all 3 listed above in now documented legal records. How do we know? That tells us that Ryan should not have had the day planner on 11/3 when he handed it over to Kelly. Last, it tells us that Teresa's workday started much earlier than the state wanted the jury to believe. And then this person says, tisk, tisk. Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and get some of these details down. It says here, now what we're doing with this is we're like, okay, is it possible that they had access to her phone records on her computer and they didn't need the day planner? Even though the day planner is really, really important at this point, he's saying that he was calling Steve, and he's saying it's vehicles. So is he calling it? There's 3 Steves in this. Are they getting confused on the Steves when later the guy, the lady says that at Auto Trader that was Steve Avery? Because it sounds like Ryan called somebody that was selling vehicles with an S. Although Calumet County issued search warrants for Teresa's singular records, it is unclear if or when the warrant was executed. As of November 22, 2005, no information from the fifth search warrant had been provided to Casio. So here's the question. If Casio didn't have Teresa's detailed cell phone records, then how did they know the phone numbers of incoming callers? Singular One does not list incoming callers on their bills. So the records that Ryan and Scott printed from the computer and the pre-bill fax from Singular to Wiegert on November 4th only had phone numbers of outgoing calls. So here you have it. I actually went and got some proof. This states on the 4th of November that John Dietering had contact with Singular Wireless. And they are basically telling him, Singular Wireless, it's on the bottom here, it says, Singular Wireless folks advised me that they require an eavesdropping warrant similar to a Title III wiretap warrant in order to access any voicemail records. So he can't get access to the voicemails at all at this point, and we're on the 4th. Okay, well, here is some paperwork that reflects State of Wisconsin of County of Manitowoc, and it's also the Circuit Court of the County of Manitowoc, and it's a complaint for search warrant, and upon oath that on November 16, 2005. So this is them still trying to get data storage and vital records from Singular. And then if you go down on the bottom, it says, now therefore in the name of the state of Wisconsin, you are commanded forthwith to search or cause the release of the said records of Singular for the information, data, or recorded call aforesaid, and return this warrant within 48 hours before said court. So they're struggling to get these phone records, and they're trying everything to get them, but they don't have them when they're trying to figure out where she was last. So this is the last thing that was ever facts that I'm aware of on Teresa's, and there's a lot of notes here. So this is somebody else's notes. I've added to it because I feel like we're all building this same case here. Teresa's handwritten notes are in the blue boxes. The bottom left blue box has directions to Sonoran Court in Green Bay. They are different street names with left and right circled. Okay, blue box. Okay, so that was directions. Got it. All right. Someone else's handwritten notes are in the red boxes. Okay. We'll look at that. Now, at the very top, that's a red box is different. We'll come to that. The green box is highlighting the fact that there was 5 pages to this fax when Teresa faxed it back to Auto Trader just after midnight on October 31st. Okay, let's see what they mean. Faxed it back. What time? I don't see a time. It does a date there for the 29th, 05 to, yeah. Unless they're referring to the date over here, but that's not. That is associated, I believe, 10/31/2005. Whoops, 13 minutes. So it'd be 12:13 a.m. I'm not sure if that's dating the fax coming in or if that's the printed on the fax going out. That's a good question, actually, that I just came up with. Okay, so let's keep going. The original fax, which Auto Trader faxed to Teresa on the morning of October 29th, was 3 pages. And this was 2 pages of the 3-page, the second page. The other pages were not admitted into evidence. Yeah, we don't want to know where the girl is, huh? Lordy. Or where she's been, I mean. I don't understand that. Okay, so she's rescheduling one appointment in New Holstein, and she's canceling this one. So that makes sense because remember there was a guy with the 2 cars. He wasn't going to be in the area for the next half hour, so she was like, we'll reschedule. So that would make sense. It's rescheduled on Monday. Now, I want to talk about the phone numbers at the top of this. So let's go ahead and look at this. You look at that Auto Trader number up there, it says from Auto Trader, and the from looks like it was handwritten to me. Anyway, it says 928-4351. No, I read it wrong. 920-435-1367. So let's go over here on this one. So you read one, I'll read the other. Okay, this bottom one, I did a reverse lookup for 1-920-435-1367. Yep, that's the right number. Okay, let's see who it's registered. It's to a K. Thibute, or Bult, in Sheboygan. And it's Kiel, and it gives the, it's Sheboygan Street in Kiel, Wisconsin. So I thought that was supposed to be the Auto Trader number, though. Okay, let's double check that number. 920-920. Yes. Okay. 435-435. Yes. 1367. Well, unless this lady in Kiel on Sheboygan Street is the one faxing to her, this doesn't make any sense. Let's look this up. All right. At the top of this form, you can see it says Teresa's name. It's hard to read, but that is 414-425-8743. 414-425-8743. All right, let's do a reverse lookup. Here's what we got. Teresa's number comes back to Auto Trader. And it's got an Atlanta, Georgia, Pensacola, Florida, and a Hales Corner, Wisconsin. So I'm guessing it'd be the Hales Corner, Wisconsin number, but that's not making sense because that number is showing on the major traderonline.com as a phone number for them. It's the one on the bottom in green, written in green, and it says 414, yep, 425-425, yep, and 87-43-43, yep. So that number is supposed to be Teresa's home fax number, and it is showing that that is the 3 phone numbers for 3 locations: Atlanta, Georgia, Pensacola, and Hales Corners, Wisconsin. And it states that they're inactive. And it states that there's 3 different addresses. So we actually have an address there for Hales Corners, Wisconsin. If you look down there, it's got the Angie Schuster manager. Huh. So I guess we could look at this and go, well, did they take her personal? I mean, I know it was her business fax, but it was in her home. And it's a landline. So how are they able to move that landline to a completely different town and keep that number? Maybe they can. Maybe this has been reissued to somebody else. I just found it interesting because it's coming back to Auto Trader instead of Teresa Halbach. So let's check out Angela Schuster, and there's her picture according to this. She's office manager for Auto Trader and Publishing. And let's keep moving on. Just, everything's out of time. Doesn't make sense. I mean, the fact that they're faxing something at 12:15 a.m., that doesn't make any sense either, or whoever's doing that. Okay, so we're going to jump ahead. This is another thing that happened on a time frame I wanted to bring up. So this bothered me about this. Blaine's talking about other vehicles for sale sitting on the Avery property, but they're up by the bus stop where they normally are. And he's explaining this, that he has to pass these vehicles to go home, and it's on the day that Teresa would have went to take the picture. So I'm starting to wonder about those vehicles with her doing hustle shots, like did she stop there to possibly get pictures of those for sale vehicles so that if they did decide to bring her back, she wouldn't have to return? She could have them on file. So let's read this. It says, Blaine said on Monday, 10/31/2005, he got out of bed at 6:30 a.m. like he normally does. The bus picks him and his brother Brendan Dassey up at the end of the gravel driveway sometime between 7:08 and 7:13 a.m. Let's go a little bit further. Okay, he describes his bus driver, starts at 8, concludes at 3:05. I'm just summarizing. Okay, let's go down here where it talks about him getting dropped off at that time. And it says, Blaine said he and Brendan were dropped off at the same spot where they were picked up. Blaine was asked to describe where the bus drops him off and picks him up. Blaine responded, it's where the red, black Blazer is currently located. I want to know whose Blazer that is. Red and black. And it's located. So let's go down a little bit further because he talks about it more. So let's go on. It says on 2005, the red black Blazer and the Monte Carlo were for sale at the end of the driveway. Blaine said he can recall those vehicles being there. Really? So red and black Blazer. Interesting. Because you really got to think, did somebody else be around the area? She gets done at Stevens and she's driving away. And we've always wondered if she did get pulled over somehow, if somebody flagged her down. But what if it was something as simple as she stopped to take a couple hustle shots in case they called her to come back to do it? She would have them on file. And that would put her outside her vehicle to take those pictures. And it has to make you wonder because she would have left, according to what we know, she would have been leaving somewhere around 2:27 to 2:30ish from Stevens driveway. So that would put her down there within a few minutes to where she could have been struck and kidnapped or something. But that idea that there's those for sale vehicles sitting down there, or at least two vehicles sitting down there, where that's usually where they're sold from, I guess, as to if she stopped there. So I had to add that. I wanted to throw a few more things in here that, I don't know if they're important, but they could be, and they happened on the 3rd. So in sticking with our game plan, let's add them in. So on November 3rd, Dietering, along with Remacher and Colburn, stopped by Zipper's residence. In Dietering's undated report of his November 3rd activity, he says that George was extremely belligerent and appeared to be intoxicated. At 9:53 p.m., more than an hour after the 3 detectives first arrived, Dietering said he was allowed to enter their residence to listen to a voicemail that Teresa left on Zipper's machine at 2:12 p.m. on October 31st. He wrote, she stated that she was in the neighborhood and that she was trying to photograph a 1997 Pontiac Firebird. She stated that she was having problems finding the residence and hoped to do so in the next few minutes. It should be noted that this voicemail message or answering machine message was subsequently copied by Detective Jacobs on Sunday, 11/6/06. So I think they have a typo. I think it should have been 05. Okay, Detective Jacobs did not file a report of his activities on November 6th. Well, maybe it is right. Okay. Also, a copy of the voicemail message that Teresa left for Zippers was not entered into evidence. So we do not get to hear that. The only message we get to hear is the one that was left allegedly is on Yonda's, where she's not finding the place, and she's stating that they need to call her back to give her the address or directions. So there you go, folks. It's all out of whack. It's all out of time. I'm out of time. I appreciate all the likes. Very much. I enjoy the comments very much. You know, I do this and you guys do this. We're all just armchair sleuths here, and everybody has a different opinion. But when it boils down to it, it matters what this paperwork says. It really does, because that's kind of what we have, the only thing we have to go on. So when the paperwork's out of time and the county's out of time and we're running out of time with Mom, Pa's, Avery, it really bothers me. And the boys are sitting time and they didn't do the crime. So hopefully we can get them home. I have immense faith, as do a huge amount of people in this planet, that Miss Zellner is doing a superb job. She just, hats off. That's all I can say to that. Just incredible. I'm very, very impressed. And I'm hoping that we're able to bring light to the public so that they are more aware of the evidence and more aware of the lack of evidence, as well as what the paperwork says. So here we go. If you didn't do the crime, you shouldn't do the time. Thank you. Have a great night.